My high school jazz band was going to play for President Obama's speech in Melbourne, Florida until our school board didn't approve of it. Has anyone else had an opportunity of a lifetime, only to get it ruined by someone higher up than you? Not me, but a former coworker. He had a really good opportunity to get an editing job right out of college and came back to tell his professor mentor about it. His professor was really excited for him. Later on he got a call saying someone else had filled the position. When he went back to tell his mentor, the guy told him, "I know why you didn't get the job. They gave it to me." Guy had totally gone behind the kid's back after hearing about the job and was keeping his teaching job as well as doing the editing job. Money problems stemmed after that for my friend and he eventually broke things off with his fiancée after a while. Eventually he ended up working at my company, but then we had layoffs and he was one of the ones to get cut. This was after he had to miss nearly a month because he got hit by a car. I never thought about how unlucky this guy was until I started typing this, but I should really give him a call and buy him a drink sometime. What a douche professor. Was invited to speak at a major developer conference, so I asked my boss. He asked corporate PR and they shot it down. Would have been a free trip to San Francisco and all kinds of other cool things. I was so angry that when they asked me to speak in Los Angeles the following year, I didn't ask for permission. Easier to ask for forgiveness. Not nearly as bad as yours, but a similar story. An alumni of my high school who now plays in the NFL recently sent about $10,000 to the football team to raid the lockers and weight room. The school claimed there was a problem with the paperwork and kept most of the money. The team saw about a quarter of it. Yeah, the team may want to inform the NFL guy of that. One of my friends was dying from cancer and did a request through the Make-A-Wish Foundation to get the artist formerly known as Snoop Dogg to show up at our prom and do a few songs and chill. The people at Make-A-Wish put in a lot of work, got Snoop Dogg to agree to come. The whole school was pumped, until our racist superintendent cancelled the whole event because he felt Snoop Dogg would try to promote gang activity at our school dance. Nobody fricks with a dying kid's chance to meet Snoop Dogg. I hope you crush that guy's dreams one day. A teacher at my school played water polo his whole life and was going to go to the Olympics, but the year he was on the Olympic team was 1980 when we boycotted them in Moscow and he never got to play. I guess that's why he became a high school teacher. I actually had a teacher who came close to the same thing, as he was meant to compete for Canada, but he had UK citizenship and qualified for their team instead. Back in late 99 early 2000, I was the head intern for a radio station. It was my job to rally all the other interns and make sure jobs got done at our events. One even we had to work at was a concert with Nissan Maya. Ghetto Superstar was her big hit at the time. My interns and I worked hard to get the venue decorated and looking good. We finished up right as Maya finished sound check. She comes off stage and we start to talk. About 2 minutes later, my boss and the record reps walk by and tells Maya that they're leaving for dinner. She turns to me and says something akin to, "Why don't you come along? It'd be nice to have someone closer to my age to talk to." Before I could answer, my boss speaks up and says, "Oh no, he has way too much to do here," and gives me a look that says, "You stay here." It wasn't the opportunity of a lifetime, but would have been really cool. TL. Doctor, I could have had dinner with pop star Maya, but my boss was a douche. You boss probably didn't want you cock-blocking him. In high school back in the late 90s, I was in a technology class senior year that was going to get us internships at places like Motorola, Intel, etc. Being one of the few computer nerds at that time in our lower middle class school, I was elated to get a chance to further my dream of learning real-world programming. Not to mention the idea of working at Intel was my dream. As a grocery bagger, I once followed a customer around the store because I saw his Intel badge. Promises got broken. We ended up playing GTA for 45 minutes every morning while the teacher fought with the school board. Not a day goes by that I don't hate losing that opportunity. I'm a coder now, but that extra start could have helped so much. It killed my teacher. He was going to help us interview, make resumes, etc. Nobody in that class cared though except one or two of us. That was our ticket out of poverty. The year before that, my family ate potatoes and beans for weeks at a time because there was no money. Thanks for trying, Mr. H. Your passion never went unappreciated. Now that's a teacher. My high school band was going to compete in Hawaii. Then the 11th of September happened and the school board banned all international travel. Where did we get to go for our band trip that year? Red Deer, Alberta. Almost everybody had quit by the next year. When I was 10 years old, my primary school had organized a school trip to a local steam train restoration line, and of course we were all excited about it. I was especially excited as I was an absolute steam fanatic at the time and had been for basically my entire life until then. The teacher, while announcing the trip, also told us that 2 of us, picked at random out of a hat, one for boys and one for girls to make it fair to both, would be allowed to go up on a locomotive with the driver and fireman to ride along half of the journey it was taking. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but the kids in my class rigged it so that my name was a dead cert to be picked by putting my name on their slip of paper instead of their own. I wasn't exactly a massively popular kid, but finding this out shortly after meant a huge amount to me. Suffice it to say that my name was picked out of the hat for the boys, and I was absolutely exploding with anticipation for the trip, even more than I had been previously. The day of the trip rolls around, and as we're getting ready to leave, the teacher announces that, sadly due to insurance, health and safety reasons and concerns raised by parents in a PTA meeting, that we wouldn't be allowed to ride in the cab with the driver and fireman anymore. I felt absolutely gutted. I lost all interest in the trip and pretty much any enthusiasm for any other school activities after that. Since I was 10 at the time, I can't exactly say with any authority which of the reasons they gave for not allowing it sounded more likely, but I did know one thing: adults are twats. You had some good friends there. In my experience, it was usually teachers' little favorites that was picked for special treatment like that. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but when my master plan reaches fruition, we'll see who's laughing then. By the blood god, we'll see WHO's laughing then. BWAH. Ha, ha. I was once invited to be in an Eminem video, but my mom didn't want me to. However, I was about 8, so her decision is understandable. My high school choir was invited to sing at Carnegie Hall with other choirs one year. I think based on our competition scores, the director turned it down because we needed time to practice our pieces for the school concert. When I was in high school, a music video was being shot at our high school. I was going to be an extra in it, until my mom told me the day of the shoot that I couldn't go because there would be no adult supervision there. I don't think the video was all that popular and the band is probably only well known to locals, but at 16, I remember thinking that this was going to be my break. My stepmother is related to a former Ohio governor. The family was once invited to stay the night at the mansion. She turned it down. I can guarantee it wouldn't have been that cool. 16-year-old girl sat on my 15-year-old lap and dared me to spend the night at her place while her parents were gone. I called my mom and she wouldn't let me. Hi mom, I'm staying the night at Todd's house. Come on. I had tickets to David Cohn's Perfect Game back in 1999. While my parents were driving to Yankee Stadium, we hit a deer and missed the game. Frick you dear. Till Yankee fans are truly ruthless. In 2003, while I was serving with the US Army in Iraq, I volunteered to push my leave so that I could be John McCain's driver for a week while he was over there. He bailed at the last minute for whatever reasons, and because I was attached to a unit that was not actually my own, they decided I wouldn't be given leave at all. This all happened in August or so. My leave was supposed to be bumped to September. I eventually was given leave about a month before our tour was over. Got to go home for 1 week near the end of November. Then went back to Iraq. Then back home in the end of December. Junior high school was ending. I was an awkward artsy kid that would fill sketchbooks with comic book illustrations and write novels in my spare time. Socially, I was treated like garbage and was about to head into high school for what would 5 more years of the same. There was a specialized art high school one city over that had this awesome arts package. You got to major in an area of the arts, visual art, writer's craft, music, etc. for all of high school and minor in one as well. It would have been somewhere I could have definitely prospered. My art teacher at the time almost begged me to go. She told me about attending the orientation every year and how happy the students were. When she told me about it, she would gleefully emit at one of the students she had sent there another year and would say, "I finally met people who are like me." Unfortunately, I was not allowed to attend the school because where I lived was too far away and lined up better with the bus routes for another high school. The art teacher tried to push my application anyways and it was almost through. But then, the school administration and my parents convinced me I could not attend because it would have been impossible to get to the art school every morning because of its location. Transportation there every day would not work. To take public transport out there would take hours. Some morning 5 years later I am late for school. As I am walking past the end of my street to go catch public transport, the oddest looking city bus pulls up to the corner, lets on a student, and drives off. I found out later it was a specialized bus for the art high school, pulling up to the end of my street, every day for the past 5 years. Always there only minutes after I left for normal school. Your parents' school admins are buttholes. I graduated from one of those performing arts schools, and it was well worth every minute I spent commuting to and from. My college band was supposed to be on The Daily Show, albeit very briefly, but our director nixed it. Probably wouldn't have been the best press for us, but for a bunch of college students, being on The Daily Show would have been really cool. I was going to be the first walk-on player allowed on our college ping pong team, but the team was disbanded shortly before. My dad had planned a trip for the four of us, brother, me, mom, dad, to Florida from California to Disney World. Then a couple days before the trip and hours of pure excitement and bragging rights, he tells us he changed it to a trip to Maui and this time it would only be him and my mom. We got to stay with our grandparents doing nothing. I was peeved beyond all belief. Remember that when you're picking out his room in an old folks home. My high school chorus takes a week-long trip once every 4 years to perform in another city. Ours was to Boston, and one of our scheduled performances was to sing the national anthem at Fenway Park. Fenway double booked singers that day and took the other group over us. Sad faces forever. At least we got to see the game, but it's not the same. Not exactly what OP asked, but school sent me and 2 other people, 3 students from an ordinary secondary school, to compete in an English vocabulary competition at the national level. We proceeded to metaphorically pummel 2 top-tier schools into the ground to emerge grand champion, winning prize money in the hundreds. I can't remember exactly how much, but my teammate says it was $700. We got none of the prize money we worked so hard for. The school took it all, claiming expenses. I don't think hiring a bus for one day cost $700. Actually, yeah, it does. Not too sure what kind you had, but I know the luxury ones are easy $1.5k a day. When I was in high school, the honors history students got to go on a 2-week trip to somewhere in Europe the summer between their junior and senior years. I worked very hard to make it into that honors course, but the summer before my possible trip the incoming seniors got drunk in their hotels, legal over there because most were 18, with a teacher. This do-gooder who didn't drink with them told the school board when he got back. The teacher was fired, the students got in trouble and the school cancelled all future trips with no plans of restarting them. This was 5 years ago and they still haven't gone back. I still haven't made it to Europe. When I was a sophomore in high school I was a serious soccer player and it took up almost all of my time. I had been in contact with some college soccer scouts in various schools I would have liked to go to at the time. The perfect opportunity came and my team had a tournament where these scouts would be, but I got benched for the tournament. My coach never gave me a solid reason why. The coach and I had even talked about how they would be there and the role I would have that weekend. Oh well. You were a sophomore. And I'm sure there were plenty of seniors that had one last opportunity to make an impression and get noticed. He did what most coaches would do. I was in a local community theater production of Meet Me in St. Louis last summer, and a few weeks before we opened I found out that up in New York they were doing an open casting call for the revival of Godspell on Broadway. I immediately decided to go. I live in DC. It's about 4 hours to drive bus there, except my director, who was just terrible, told me I wasn't allowed to go because the rehearsal was too important. After a lot of arguing I decided whatever and didn't go to the casting call. I ended up going to rehearsal and literally doing nothing the entire time. Cut to a few months later and I go to see Gospel up in New York. After the show, my friends and I end up talking with Charlie Alterman, the music director for the show. We hit it off, talk a while, and we add him on Facebook afterwards. Another couple months later and I see the show again. This time when I talk to Charlie I mention the open call story and he asks me to sing something for him. After I do he basically tells me I would have been in the running for casting. Still not sure if he was just being really nice, but it was still one of the more frustrating things to ever happen to me. TLDR. Idiot's director of an awful show forbid me to got to a Broadway audition for a role I later found out I totally had a shot at getting. I have honestly noticed that art drama music teachers hold their kids back in fear that they will be better than them. Freaking sick. Ridiculous. He's the sitting president. Look past the politics and let some students meet the freaking president of the United States. What a bunch of bitter pricks. I go to a recently opened audio institute with only about 30 students right now. About halfway through my second quarter a friend and I decided to have some fun and write a proposal to get an Xbox 360 in the student lounge. We were surprised to come in one morning and hear it was actually being taken serious and needed to talk to the head of the school in order to get it passed. The only reason we got denied was because she refused to move the sofa in the student lounge a foot because it will look ugly. I know we did it as a joke but I was truly heartbroken when she said no over something so stupid and easy to fix. TLDR. School admin denied getting an Xbox because moving a couch would mess up her room design. Similar situation. My high school band was asked to play at President Obama's inauguration on the same dang steps where he gives his speech. We didn't because my band director didn't want to. Who the frick gives up an opportunity like that? But that adults. I was at a national soccer game, Australia, and the halftime event was to win a year's supply of ice cream. 1 year of ice cream. I was 10. This was big deal. I was selected as one of the contenders. You had to kick a goal. I kicked a goddamn goal. Turns out they chose too many people to participate so they ran out of time. It was decided that they would decide the winner out of everyone that kicked a goal in the first round. Let's do this. To win that round you had to catch a ball that they had thrown up into the pack of competitors. The ball was coming towards me. This is it, 1 year of ice cream for me. I jump to catch this ball that signifies 1 year of ice cream. The progenitor of all scumbag Steves ever, a very tall man, literally catches the ball from just above my fingertips. I return to my seat to watch the rest of the game absolutely distraught at losing out on a year's supply of ice cream. TLDR. Lost a year's supply of ice cream because it was ruined by someone literally higher up than me. When I was in middle school, we had end of the year trips for each grade. 6th grade went to the pool, 7th to an amusement park, 3rd to a different amusement park. For my grade, 6th grade trip got cancelled. 7th grade trip started raining torrentially as soon as we got there for the whole time, and 8th grade trip got cancelled. My school band is possibly going to London for the New Year's Day parades next year. My mom says I probably can't go because she's too overprotective, and the school board will more than likely deny the request. Way to keep your chin up. My high school band played for a Hillary Clinton speech back in 2008 and the first chair flautist covered her folder in McCain stickers. The folders were on those collapsible stands that you can see through. It was a bit awkward. In grade 8 I joined the crossing guard club. Basically we would volunteer to go early to school and leave late to make sure the kids can safely cross the street. Because we were told that for all of our hard work, we'd go to Canada's Wonderland. Sort of like Six Flags for those of you in the States. Well, the end of the year rolls around and we're all getting excited and randomly the school tells us that it's been cancelled and that none of us were going. We of course got angry, so they decided to make things worse by drawing names out of hats. One boy and one girl would be able to go if they were picked, except it was rigged and the vice principal's nephew and his girlfriend at the time got to go. Fun times. In middle and high school, I did a lot of prank stupid crap. If my principal did this, he would have experienced firsthand the wrath of Lando. All jokes aside, I would have put a stink bomb in his office. My high school marching band was invited to play at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, but my band director turned them down. To this day, no one knows why. Also, on a related scumbag band director note, this same year we made it to state festival for the first time in my high school's history in both marching band and jazz band, and he opted not to go because we didn't want to end the season on a bad note by not winning at state. Disappointed, to say the least. After weeks of working my fingers to the bone, I was awarded a $87,000 scholarship to attend the school I've wanted to go to since I was 10 years old. My mom refused to loan me the $200 I needed to apply to the school. She waited till the day the application was due to tell me. She used that money to buy my high school dropout brother an above ground pool. I'm no longer a high school student, so that money is gone forever. Not me, but a friend of mine was going to be an extra for the 6th Harry Potter movie. Not exactly an opportunity of a lifetime, but I'd certainly say it was a big deal. They'd educate her on set and she'd get a wand souvenir, but she had to ask our headmaster for permission, for some reason, and he said no, because he didn't believe the studio could keep her up to date with her studies. It's been a few years now, and she's just about able to watch the film without crying. I received a scholarship to attend Deerfield when I was in 8th grade. Deerfield is one of the better prep schools in the country, and I'd have a much better shot at getting into an Ivy League school. My dad vetoed it because he wanted me to stay at home in California. The next year he walked out on the family and I wound up going to public school, and then a third-rate liberal arts school, and I'm at a T2 law school. Should've, could've, didn't. The longer I'm out of college, the less where I studied actually matters. Work hard and apply yourself and you will succeed. Tears of schooling are bulls compared to competency. Sucks about your dad. 2. Get back at him by building a better life than he did. I moved to a small town that was extremely cliquey. If you weren't born there or didn't have the right last name, you weren't considered much by the powers that be. I joined the town's soccer team and did very well. I scored the most goals by a wide margin. I was positive and never missed any practices or games. When it came time for the end of the year awards, MVP, sportsmanship, almost everyone on the team was pointing at me for the MVP. The MVP went to one of our defensemen whose father was a big shot in town. I was very disappointed. The next year I was called up to play some games with the older team. I learned so much and also contributed some goals. I was asked to play in their championship game too, which was actually against the other team from the same town. We had 2 teams. The coach for the other team was the wealthiest guy in town and the brother-in-law of my coach. So we beat their team and their coach invites everyone, including my team, over to his house to swim, play tennis, BBQ, etc. Since I was only invited up to play with the bigger boys for a few games in the championship game, my coach called up his brother-in-law to ask if I could go too, fully expecting it shouldn't be a problem but wanted to check in out of respect. The butthole says no. Again, a last name thing. It really is amazing how a town of 1,500 can act so elitist. We moved to a beach tourist town about 20 minutes away after 3 years, and that was a much better improvement. It was more laid back and fun. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.